Hello and welcome to tonight's Express PD. I'm Monique from Japanesey Reads. Tonight we are talking about grammar, and this topic came up last week in the Express PD in the Japanesey Reads community, and it was raised by a teacher who is really embracing CI and has done lots of her own research into acquisition and the difference between learning and acquiring language, and is doing some fantastic stuff. But she said, how can I teach the TEP form? How can I teach this grammar point? And it was something that really resonated with me because I have been in her shoes myself, where I knew that what I was doing when I was teaching with a story-based approach and using lots of comprehensible input, how much the students were acquiring and how much they were enjoying the language lessons. And yet, with the pressures that we have particularly in secondary school, but to meet the curriculum that is often very grammar focused, it's very easy to be pulled back into that, oh, I need to teach them going back to the old ways, as we say. So I really wanted to think about how we can take this question of how to teach the TEP form and look at ways that might be more aligned with the acquisition process. And because I'm a lover of stories, I really wanted to tie that in with some rich storytelling. So here we go. I thought we'd just start off with just a little bit of an overview of the research behind grammar instruction, and there's quite a lot of research that would support the idea of delaying grammar instruction until after the students or the learners have a really solid base, and that solid base comes from rich, meaningful input that has been understood. So you can see here, this is just a smattering. There is so much more, but these are some of the quotes that would support that. So Alice really talks about focusing on the delay of waiting until the learners are ready to, as I said, have that strong foundation. And so the introduction of grammar is matched to their readiness. And Stephen Krashen has long and strong views and research backed about how language is acquired in one way and in one way only, and that is when we understand the messages. So we're moving away from drilling and practicing, but rather flooding the learner with lots of interesting input that they understand and they can take part in and be involved in that exchange of information. So I particularly like this one. It's paraphrased, it's not verbatim, from Dr. Bill Van Patten. And grammar instruction does not create acquisition, it rides on top of it. So again, that idea, I have a really strong visual representation of the foundation, the rock of the acquisition and that understanding, and the grammar then is on top when there is enough support underneath to for the students or the learners to process that. So, as I said, tonight I wanted to just have a look at three ways that we might be able to use stories to address this grammar point. And if we look at the research and which states that we need to flood the students with lots of input that is interesting, that they understand, stories are the perfect vehicle for that because there is that emotional connection, that engagement, and if they're involved in the co-creation of a story, then there's that ownership. So Dr. Liam Printer has done lots of research, recent research on on the self-determination theory and how which has the three pillars of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And those three pillars, when present, that ignites that intrinsic motivation. So, which plants the seeds for acquisition. So the three different, I thought that I would showcase three ideas that I have. One which is heavily scaffolded, and then release the responsibility a little bit. We'll have a bit more autonomy with the word wall, and then another idea of using a story spinner. So, whoops. So the first one, we'll just do that one again. Here we go, is the scaffolded one. And this scaffolded option here is really good for scaffolding for the students, so that they are given they can stay, and the teacher can stay in bounds. So restricting the language so that there is more chance for repetition, some choice, but it's far more scaffolded. So for me, when I was first starting out creating stories and using them in the class, I really did rely on a bit of a script for myself so that I knew that I was staying in bounds and I could feel quite prepared and organised with the language use. So when I moved to more CI, I was using more language in the classroom. And so that was only made possible really by keeping in bounds with the limited high frequency vocab that the students could understand. So therefore they were understanding and processing the messages, so the communication was clear. So here's one example of something that you could do to structure a story. And in a perfect world, I did start, but I haven't finished this. This could be an interactive one where you click on any of the characters and that will take you to the next slide. So ideally that's how this would work, but it's a work in progress. So starting by asking, so again, what shifted for me was, rather than saying this is the grammar point and this is how we're going to, this is how you use it, this is the table, this is how you conjugate, I would just try to engage in a conversation and use that grammar point as much as I could so that the students are hearing that and connecting with it. So starting with a question, "Dare ga imasu ka?" And then you're asking for suggestions from the students. It could be, but you're also clarifying and giving lots of input along the way. So 誰がいますか？ラーメンマンですか？それともスーパー寿司ですか？ああ、誰ですか？誰の名前ですか？ああ、バーガーマンです。ああ、バーガーマンがいますか？納豆麺がいますか？誰ですか？ホットグマンですか？いいえ、ホットグマンじゃないです。Pizza man ですね. And the students can choose. You could vote on it, and still you're getting lots of that interaction, but you're keeping well and truly in bounds. It's kept very visual so the students can follow along and kept very comprehensible. So the selection's been made, and it's Ramen man des. Ramen man des. And so you've got your character. Start to add some details about where they are. So ramen man wa doko ni imasu ka? Doko desu ka? So you could have a list of, up on this slide, you could have a list of some suggested places if you wanted to try and keep it a little bit more manageable, or you can keep it open-ended. So, for example, these could be some of the ones on the previous slide. Ramen man wa maku ni ite, MCG にいて、トイレにいて、うちにいて、スペインにいて。And so you've decided on the location, you're introducing the TEP form there. So, 日本にいて, and then we move on to the next piece of detail for the story. 誰を見ますか? 誰を見ますか? And again, you could then tie in with the characters that have already been introduced into the story, or it could be a famous person. Add that detail and slot it in. Ramen Man wa Lady Gaga o mite nani to iimasu ka? And so then you've got an opportunity to discuss these and clarifying along the way with some personalised questions and answers as you go. So again, this could be some of them they may know, some of them might be new ones, new phrases, but just checking and asking, and again providing more input by asking either or. おはようございますと言って、それともこんにちはと言って。So again, the teacher's role I see as providing lots of that input and making sure that the students are connecting in. And one way of doing that is by giving the either or, particularly for a quieter class. They might just need that extra little bit of scaffolding by giving two choices rather than just choosing from the whole lot. こんにちはと言って何を食べますか? And again, this is a perfect chance for lots of PQ&A, personalised questions and answers. So, ramen man wa, ramen を食べて、それともベジマイトを食べて。You could then check with the students what they would eat, what they like. You could stop here and have a nice little chit chat about that before you move on, clarifying that detail. Ramen wa sushi o tabete. 何と言いますか? And again, checking in with these, it's a good chance then these could be in Romaji if you wanted to uh, lower the cognitive load, depending on where your students are at. Higher students, they might be familiar with these words in the kanji, but otherwise, for this input part, the oral input part, I would, with lower students, use Romaji for this part, but provide that oral input through lots of discussion about that. So, does he say, umai? Umai to ite? Oishikunai to ite? So you can ask lots of questions along the way and then confirm the detail again. So, ramen wa mazui to ite? And then goes on, nani o nomimasu ka? And again, checking these, it's a good chance to give some exposure to some food and drink vocab, but kept in context. So not actually a food unit, but this is very much in context. The language here. So again, do you drink coffee? Do you drink martinis? Yeah, ダメですね. So you can have lots of little chit chats about these visuals here. And clarify again, ramen wa martini o nomimasen. Coffee o nonde. And then again, recapping again, there's a little bit of a routine here, but it's unpredictable. They can choose again whether they think, mazui desu, mazui to ite, or umai. So again, in these phrases kept in context. Oishii to ite, nani o shimasu ka? ラーメンマンはキャンピングをして、バレエをして、so you can check in with them and ask for so we're building this story piece by piece. Again, a chance to include some adjectives that are kept very much in context within the story. 楽しいと言って寝ます。So that's the scaffolded choose your own adventure style. Again, you could have that connected to each slide for each part, or just work through it from the start to the end there, oshimai. And then I think the piece de resistance is then after you've done that oral input, you've got an opportunity then to read and provide more input for that TEP form or whatever that grammar point is that you were hoping to target. And by doing it in a story format like this, in my experience, it just clicks so much more because of that emotional connection and the fact that there is that ownership over the story. They've been a part of this, and throughout the creation of the story, there's undoubtedly going to be some jokes and laughs and cringe moments, particularly if the students are choosing some unusual locations where he might go or things that they might eat. So the second story idea that I had has less scaffolding. So again, it would be for a teacher that is comfortable to work on the fly a little bit more, very confident with their language, and perhaps the students are maybe very creative and original thinking in regards to story ideas. So they'll run with it. I've taught students that are dead quiet and it's like pulling teeth and need lots of prompting with visuals and with prompting from me, and others that just run with a story. So, yeah, know your students and know which one works best. But the word wall story framework would be something like this, and this word wall I use with lots of oral input stage for the stories and for lessons, and focusing on the Super 7. And I've spoken a lot about the Super 7 and why it is such a great grounding for all learners. And then from there, you can build up and add the extra verbs. But if the students have a really solid understanding of these 7 key verbs, there is a lot of language really easily that can be used, and they become very familiar with it and very comfortable and confident to use this language in an impromptu way and quite spontaneous. So again, this would be projected up on the wall on the whiteboard, and the teacher then would be asking the questions. But again, there's less scaffolding, less visuals there. So, but with that comes a little bit more flexibility. So again, that is one option. And the third one is a fun sort of Mad Lib type story, I suppose, where collectively the class will co-create with these prompts. So it could be like I went shopping and I bought type story that gets built on by, I wonder if this is going to work for me. There we go. Taking turns to spin it, and then you've got it there. And so the class will then start with that verb. So, and creating a sentence from that. So that will be your first one. Pizaman wa konnichiwa to ite, and then you spin again. Pizza o tabete, and so you'd build on. Ramen man wa konnichiwa to ite, pizza o tabete. Maybe just the one beforehand, because we'll probably forget unless we do it in a whole big group. And then adding to it. So tegami o kaite. And this might require some extra prompting or some support or scaffolding from modeling from the teacher, but that's okay. I think the act of co-creating it together, a funny, disjointed, Mad Lib style story can be a lot of fun. Yonde. Now, for extra scaffolding here, you could put or choose the verbs that the students know or have had some exposure to. So again, not putting all new ones in there. You might only choose half a dozen. So, but it's just another idea of how to go about creating a story that incorporates a language chunk in lots of different ways. So again, you could then do that in script as well. I think the main thing is to really know your cohort of students and where they're at, and what level of support that they need to ensure that they can engage really effortlessly in this conversation. After the co-created stories, then I would really suggest, if you're not familiar with Write and Discuss, please check it out. It's a shared writing routine that is wonderful to use after some oral input. I go into more detail about Write and Discuss and the benefits and how to do it in several of the YouTube videos on the Japanese Reads channel. And the ones that I can remember, 28 and 31, do look at Write and Discuss. So if you'd like some more information about Write and Discuss and how to do it, please check those out. But it's a really it's a fantastic skill to include into your toolkit, because it then provides a written input right where the students are. They've co-created the story together, the text together. You're writing it and clarifying again, providing more oral input, and then you have a written account of the language that you've just been using. So it's like a triple threat. They hear it and see it being written, and then they read it. So it's a great as I said, tool to put in your toolkit. So I hope that was helpful. Maybe it has encouraged you to think about other ways of looking at grammar and how we approach the teaching of grammar. As I said, I have a YouTube channel where I share videos about lots of different things related to extensive reading and comprehensible input and acquisition-driven teaching. So please check it out, or any of the other social media that I am on. And please reach out if you've got any questions or any topics that you would like to look into in the videos and the Express PD that I offer. それで終わります。じゃあ、頑張りましょう。